The man you met in Season 1 wasn't created by one heartbreak. He was shaped by a promise he made at 18. A promise that quietly connected every person who entered his life.
When I was 18, I had an online friend. She was 7 years older than me, 25, and working as a teacher in another state. We had never met in person, but we spoke often. We shared stories about our lives, our struggles, and our dreams. Over time, we made a simple promise to each other. No matter what happened, we would never disappear without informing the other. Then one day, her phone was switched off. I called again and again. The same response every time. Days passed. One day. 2 days, 5 days, there was no message, no explanation, nothing. The silence started feeling heavier than the distance between us. The only things I knew about her were her hometown, the area where she worked, and that she was a school teacher. Her town was nearly 450 kilometers away from my home in another state. I couldn't sit at home wondering forever, so I decided to go there and find out if she was okay. Before leaving, I packed a few small gifts and wrote her a handwritten letter. I sent them through a courier, believing they would reach her at her workplace. Then early the next morning, I boarded a bus and started my journey. By evening, I reached a city I had never visited before. Since the next day was Sunday and schools would be closed, I booked a small hotel room for 2 nights and planned to begin searching the following morning. That night, while I was lying in the hotel room, my phone suddenly rang. Her name appeared on the screen. I smiled with relief and answered immediately, expecting to hear that everything was fine. Instead, she started shouting at me. I didn't understand what had happened. Then she asked me one question. "Why did you send a letter to my house?" At that moment, everything made sense. I had forgotten one important thing. She worked away from her hometown. The courier had reached her parents instead of her. They had received the gifts, opened the letter, and read everything before she even knew about it. Before I could explain anything, she cut the call. Seconds later, her phone was switched off again. That night, I decided my trip was over. I packed my bag and convinced myself that I should return home without searching for her. Maybe I had already made enough mistakes, but the next morning I couldn't leave. I had already traveled 450 kilometers. I told myself that if I returned now, I would regret it for the rest of my life. So instead of going to the bus station, I started searching for the school where she worked. It was Sunday, so every school was closed. I spent hours walking around unfamiliar streets, asking people for directions. Finally, I found a place with the same name I was looking for, XYZ Junior College. I believed I had finally found her workplace. Satisfied, I returned to the hotel and decided to come back the next morning. On Monday morning, just before leaving the hotel, I casually mentioned the school's name to the receptionist. He looked at me and smiled. Then he said, "That's not a school, that's a junior college. The actual XYZ school is only 1 kilometer from here." I thanked him and immediately walked to the correct school. At the entrance, I asked a lady if she knew her. She looked at me and replied that she hadn't arrived yet. So I stood quietly outside the gate, waiting. Only a couple of minutes later, the same lady returned and said, "She's already inside, she's in the classroom." I walked through the corridor until I reached her classroom. I stood outside the door. A few moments later, she stepped outside, looked straight at me and asked, "Who are you?" I quietly said my name. For a second, she froze. She couldn't believe I was standing there. We went into the teacher's room and talked for hours. We cleared misunderstandings, explained things that couldn't be explained over a phone call, and spoke honestly for the first time in days. When it was finally time to leave, I thanked her for meeting me. She dropped me near my hotel before returning to work. That day was the first time we met in person, and it also became the last.
At 18, Ethan believed a promise was stronger than time. He did not know life does not break promises overnight. It breaks them one decision at a time, and every broken promise leaves behind someone waiting for you to return. A promise that quietly connected every person who entered his life.